We're at Josh Cook's favourite circuit then, as we get set for rounds 10, 11 and 12 of the Quick Fit British Touring Car Championship. Welcome to Thruxton. Welcome to qualifying for what promises to be an absolute blast around the fastest circuit in the UK, an old airfield track that has changed little at all since it first opened in 1968. Qualifying is coming up. It's going to be fascinating around here to see how the hybrid works, with a championship being led by Ash Sutton, who is now 7 points ahead of Tom Ingram. Colin Turkington is third ahead of Dan Camish. Jake Hill fifth ahead of Dan Rowbottom. Then Adam Morgan and Rory Butcher next. So the cars in the pit lane getting ready to be released out onto the circuit, ready for 30 minutes of qualifying. And as ever, this is a circuit that always favours the brave drivers. We've had one or two little indiscretions across the two free practice sessions. Nothing damaging, just the odd spin here and there. But in both, it was Josh Cook who proved to be the man to beat. Now, whether that carries on in qualifying, we'll see. We know how well he goes around here. We'll get ready in a few moments' time as the cars hit the circuit. But earlier on, Tim and Louise had a wander through the paddock to see who they could find with their thoughts on free practice. Let's catch up then before we go into qualifying with Tim Harvey and Louise Good.
Thanks, David. Yep. Pit lane at a sunny Thruxton, the fastest track on the calendar. What more could you ask for? I've just stopped Bobby T on his way back after FP2. In fact, I'm going to hide you because we need to hide you from Tom Ingram, don't you? Just tell us what happened.
Yeah, I haven't seen him yet. I think I've got a couple of words coming to me. Yeah, I got in his way, and he was obviously on a push lap. I totally didn't mean to do it, but as a session goes for us, yeah,
it's good.
Yeah, old Baz has put in the work in, and it's going well. It's the first time here actually that I've exited a corner and the rear of the cars hit the grass first rather than the front, so that means she's moving around, and that's what you need at this place. You need the thing on edge. It's not very nice, it's so fast and on edge, but it's fast.
Baz, your new engineer, obviously, who's joined you from Dynamics. Tim, is that a feeling you remember well, a car on edge at Thruxton?
It's every car I've driven, I think, is on edge round here. It's lovely when you get the new tyres on, but what's your window for peak performance on new tyres? 1 or 2 laps?
One and done. If anything, the second lap I felt better, maybe because it's a bit safer. You look down at the dash and it's just, yeah, it's about 3-4 tenths off. So yeah, 1 and done, and that puts a lot of pressure on all the drivers here, even the real drive guys. Just get it done early. Yeah,
it just depends on your balance. Good luck, Bobby.
Yep, have a good qualifying later on. Right, we're going to wander through, see if we can pick up a few more drivers. So interesting setup here at Thruxton. It's very small garage areas, so all of the teams effectively work out of their awnings. And here at the sharp end, I can see two Napa besuited gentlemen looking at their cars. Let's butt in, guys. Can we butt into your come around here?
Is this a sub post debrief on free practice?
Yes, a brief discussion, yeah, about how we're getting on and how we feel we're shaping up.
And how do you feel after the disappointment of Snetterton? That was a cruel blow on the ride height.
It was a cruel blow. As we discussed, it's touring cars has a funny way of catching up with you, and I got one when Pearson got penalised at Donington. It handed me a win and put me in the right place at the right time. And what takes with one hand, it took away with another at last week at Snetterton. So it's a shame, but it doesn't take away the performance that we had in the car. It's a negligible gain, if any, on a soft tyre surrounded by hards. I think we would have been clear second regardless. So it is what it is, but we'll pick ourselves up, and now we've got to deliver today.
No, you're very sanguine about it, that's for sure.
A long time to think it over.
I've only had 2 weeks, to be fair.
I've only had 2 weeks.
2 weeks is not enough for me.
2 weeks to pull my hair out.
You were looking quite handy in the second practice session.
I do have rare moments, It does come now and again. It was okay. We're just trying a few different things. The car feels great. Very, very, very loose. So I've just got to go and calm my nerves. But yeah, I know. I need it. Yeah, I needed it out there, if I'm honest. But no, it's good. I think we're in a good position.
Oh, 100th race start, race 1 tomorrow. So can't believe it's that
long.
Good
luck, guys.
It's been around that long, right? Let's go for a bit of a wander as we head down past Napa. They were they had such a good weekend last time out. When you're looking at Ash, I mean, the best car he's ever driven, he said. How much a worry is that for everybody else? Not necessarily just here, but across the season.
It's a big worry because everyone thinks because it's the fastest circuit, the cars with the most powerful engines must win. Not the case. This is a chassis and handling circuit. It's all about keeping forward momentum, not fighting the car with slides, but going forward. And that's what results in a great lap time. And that car has a fantastic chassis.
And very much a driver circuit as well, isn't it? I mean,
Yeah.
you know, you've got to... Oh, sorry, somebody was just waving at me from the distance. I wasn't quite sure what was going on. Yeah, very much a driver circuit. You have 100% got to commit here, haven't you?
Lots of new tyres here because they're not using them in free practice. But yeah, it's a real commitment circuit. Very hard on tyres. As Josh was saying, 1 lap maximum for the best performance in quali. They'll have to eke out their tyre life throughout the race. Everybody on hards throughout the 3 races, as we expected. But yeah, this is a huge commitment.
Here's a man I want to have a huge commitment. Here's a man I want to have a chat to. I'm going to use it. He hates it. The king of Thruxton. But you've demonstrated yet again. You know, you get it together here, don't you?
Yeah, obviously we really don't know what's going to happen in this qualifying session, but you know, we've obviously started off pretty well. But we don't know what people have been doing tyre-wise. We don't know how much they've got left in the tank. So all we can do is just keep working on our car, keep making it that little bit better. And as always, it's going to be really, really close at the top of the times.
Josh, quickest in both free practices. Is it just a case that you've got a line, you've got a groove, you roll the car out, you do your thing here, and what you do naturally with your control inputs and your line just results in a fast time?
Yeah, you know, I don't feel like there's anything particular that I do differently. It's just the continuity of having, you know, sort of the same package for the past few years has really allowed me just to get in the car. And we're not rolling out first time and figuring out what we've got. You know, we do know what to expect, and that means that we can just spend all the time that we've got tweaking it and making it that little bit better.
But you've said all year this car feels completely different. You haven't been at one with it, yet you come here and it's situation normal. You're top of the times.
Yeah, we did make some really big steps forward at Snetterton, and we knew that. So we have adopted that same philosophy heading into this weekend. So it wasn't identical, but we seem to be getting the same output from the car. So that's a good thing. But you know, again, it's just you know, it isn't quite what I'm used to, but we still managed to make it work today.
Well,
Seems to be good enough.
Yeah, I was going to say, you certainly made it work well earlier on. Fingers crossed for the qualifying session. That is coming up very shortly, so we'll see you out there. Back to you, David.
Louise, thanks very much. Right, we are getting set for qualifying. A fantastic Mini 7 race has just ended here at Thruxton with a touring car link because Mike Jordan was the winner by a whopping 0.8 of a second. And the 7s and the Mini Melias you'll see as part of the ITV4 live coverage tomorrow. Lots of people on hand as well for a Saturday as the final Minis cross the line. And very shortly, as I say, we will be in business ready for qualifying. Right, Tim's got his breath back as we get set for this qualifying session. And yes, you've made the point with Josh, it's a circuit where you've got to be brave and it's an ultra-fast circuit. It's one that rewards those committed drivers. Are we going with Cook for pole then, or is there another surprise somewhere?
Well, you know, you'd be hard pushed to bet against him. He had 1 pole last year here. There were 2 races here, remember, last year. Josh Cook took the pole in one and Dan Camish in the other, and being fastest in both of the free practice sessions, it's hard to bet against him, isn't it?
It is really, and we know just how well he goes around here. 10 times a winner around the Thruxton circuit. The One Motorsport with Starline Racing team. One Motorsport having a busy weekend because they have cars racing at Paul Ricard as well in the new McLaren Artura Trophy. Danny Buxton is away there engineering and looking after that element of the team, but the touring car section is doing pretty well. Right, in the pit lane, driver's about to get on board. Aaron Taylor-Smith sets towards his car store with Power Max Racing Vauxhall Astra. Just thinking about earlier on in the day, Will Powell was one of those drivers that had a fairly lurid moment, a big spin coming out of church in the second of the free practice sessions. But this is going to be a really interesting 30 minutes. Now, of course, we've got the hybrid to factor in as well. Ash Sutton having just 1 second a lap of it, which is therefore the absolute minimum. He comes here as the championship leader. Is the hybrid going to make a massive difference around here? Is this a momentum lap?
Well, talking to the drivers, because the average speed is so high anyway, and hybrid makes a bigger difference accelerating out of a slower corner, they don't feel there's that much difference, perhaps only a couple of tenths of a second. between someone with 15 seconds worth of hybrid and someone with very little. So Ash is probably coming into this race not such a hardship, if you like, with only 1 second. But the place they will use it is coming out of the final chicane across the start-finish line and coming out of the Campbell-Cobb-Seagrave complex onto the back section.
So as the BMW of Jake Hill comes forward, as you've just been hearing, the team sort of operate out of their awnings and then come through into the pit lane. We have had 1 or 2 of the minis in strife, one at the chicane, which will need retrieving, and I think there might also be some barrier damage, so we might be a couple of minutes away from getting the session started. It could be starting just a little bit late. You can see that the teams aren't quite as frantic as they might ordinarily be, but the clerk of the course, Ian Watson, will have his eye on what's going on, and as soon as the track is safe to release the cars, they will so do. There is Will Powell. So again, the fact that drivers aren't in cars does suggest we're going to be a few minutes yet before we get a green flag.
Yeah, Will doing Plack Blakeney's job at Thruxton. A lot of help there with his grass cutting off a couple of times in free practice. There's another car off there, but I think the barrier damage, as you said, is up at the chicane.
Yeah.
It was an interesting mini race, and for those of you that haven't seen it before, do watch it tomorrow. There's some interesting sponsors on the cars.
Some great liveries is what Tim is
That's
suggesting.
all I'll say.
This is how we are for the championship, remember. Ash Sutton ahead of Tom Ingram, Colin Turkington third, then Dan Camish from Jake Hill, Dan Rowbottom sixth, Adam Morgan, Rory Butcher behind him. But it's quite a gap, isn't it, between second and third. But Colin Turkington, this perhaps not a BMW circuit, but he knows how to bank points.
Well, it was always considered very much a front-wheel drive circuit, the front-wheel drive cars pulling themselves nicely round the corner rather than pushing from the rear. That's the reason for the delay. But BMW seemed to get on top of that the last couple of years and had some good results and qualifyings. But it just seems to me like the tide is turning a bit more towards the front-wheel drive cars now. Without success ballast, which obviously hinders the car all the way around the lap all the time. Those coming in, Adam Christodoulou here down in the pit lane, winner of the Spa endurance race last week. 6 hours or 6 hours? Yeah.
Yes.
He's a keen touring car fan, just talking to Dan Rowbottom.
Midlanders together.
Yeah, but the BMWs have been scratching around. They've tried lots of different setups. Jake Hill was a bit quicker in free practice too, wasn't it? But I do think they're not dialed in the way the front-wheel drive cars really are.
So 1 or 2 of them then starting to, the drivers this is, get on board. You're looking at Rory Butcher's Toyota, which of course still the Corolla, even though it's a shape we're familiar with, is being attuned to the new engine for this year, the Neil Brown built engine, and every time out there's another step forward taken, so those cars ought to be in the ballpark around here. The Napa Fords though, everybody rather enviously shakes their head and says, God, they're quick, those cars.
Yeah, the only question mark is that the team don't really know why Camish failed that ride height at Snetterton.
No.
They really can't figure out why it's happened, and it's happened a couple of times in testing as well, despite them feeling they've set the car right. So something is not staying status quo on the car between setup and after action.
So far, 3 poles, all of the pole positions have been done by a Napa Ford. 1 to Dan Rowbottom, 1 to Dan Camish, 1 to Ash Sutton. Therefore, it's Sam Osborne's turn in this session. I did put that to his dad, to Pete Osborne. He said, if that happens, I'll run naked round the circuit. So brace yourselves, everybody. Let's, though, before we get into qualifying, just remind ourselves what happened 2 weeks ago back at Snetterton.
We're in for a really, really good one.
We've got a fantastic day's racing in the sunshine ahead of us.
Good start is made by Sutton.
You can bet your house on him winning this.
Ash Sutton wins round 7.
Ash Sutton extraordinary.
A man and machine in absolute harmony,
This car's just so good at the minute. Best front-wheel drive touring car I've ever driven.
dancing on the limit.
That chassis is head and shoulders above anything else.
Second win of the day.
The car's just been absolutely on form. We have not changed that car since France.
The search for that magic ingredient, and it looks as if Ash Sutton and Napa Racing have found it.
Absolute mega run so far.
If he wins this race, we may as well all go home.
Going to be a race win for Tom Ingram, and what a race it has been.
I'm glad to have got today done, but definitely very, very pleased to finish off with the win. It's really, really good.
And I'm actually quite happy that I'm alive and watching the guy race because he is proper.
Really looks pretty unstoppable.
but do not think for one moment that the championship is over. Far from it. Ash Sutton gets ready for qualifying then. Tom Ingram a lot happier, a lot healthier than he was at Snetterton. Whatever the bug was that he had, he's now fully recovered from, and he was in, as ever, spectacular fighting form in free practice. And again, standing out by the side of the circuit over at Church, it's not surprising when I say that the most committed, the most exciting to watch were Ash Sutton and Tom Ingram, although Adam Morgan was similarly committed in the BMW, and in terms of taking a tight line through Church and using the curb on the inside, Adam was almost on the grass there, so he's another man to watch, and he's always gone pretty well around Thruxton, in fact.
Yeah,
Adam
he has.
Morgan.
He has a good record, and he wants to end with a high this weekend, because he's going off on his stag weekend to the Isle of Man TT races next week with ex-team Chief Norman Burgess leading the histrionics. So that could be quite a fun week, couldn't it? But yeah, I mean, look, Ash Sutton, there's no such thing as a dead cert in the British Touring Car Championship, but you do feel with his speed, his experience, and the car he's got underneath him, he would be the favourite at the moment for, certainly to be in championship condition.
Indeed so. Well, Ash Sutton will be one of the drivers to keep an eye to in this session. So also Colin Turkington. And before we go green, let's join Louise in the pit lane.
Yeah, I think Colin's actually just chatting with his engineer at the moment. I'll see if I can catch his eye line. He's all right for a chat. So, Colin, a little bit of a delay to the session. How are you feeling heading out there?
I'm not sure, actually. With Thruxton, you never quite know what's about to come. It's a tricky place just to get the car with the right balance, because it's such big mix of the high speed and the slow speed. So the whole thing is a compromise, and obviously we're on the hard tyre, so you don't quite have the grip that you would expect on, let's say, on the medium tyre. So I think it's like most years, we're just slowly nudging the car in the right direction, and hopefully the best is to come in qualifying, new tyres, new brakes, and hopefully we can pull a lap out of it. It's such a small window. You get one lap, and in the next lap, the tyres just start to drop off. So, but we get 3 runs here in qualifying, so we get 3 runs on new tyres. So, give it my best shot.
How close is the car setup-wise and feel-wise to being where you want it to be?
It's not far away, if I'm honest. It was we rolled out of the box pretty good, but it's a subtle change on the car can nudge it out of the window very easily. So it's a lot easier to make the car slower than it is faster. So we're just trying to slowly put it in the right direction.
Go well out there. Back to you guys.
Thanks, Louise. So, Napa poles all season. Rowbottom, Camish, Sutton. Do we get a first double pole winner? Do we get a fourth different name? As a candidate for pole position, undoubtedly, Josh Cook. And the One Motorsport with Starline Racing Honda Civic is set to go as the marshals just sort out the dramas at the end of the mini race, and then we can release the touring cars out on track. Of course, because of the nature of Thruxton and the rather elderly pit garages and the number of them, some of the teams have to operate from the assembly area, so they will join in after that wave of cars have gone down the pit lane, and then the other teams that are in the assembly area will be allowed out. The road will get busy, and of course, as ever, we'll have the cars making early stops if they require a tyre cross. The rear-wheel drive cars you can anticipate to stay out. Are we expecting then times to be done early in the session, or will they be able to get a second run, perhaps even it gets a bit hotter towards the end?
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see. Obviously, the BMWs can get straight on it. They don't cross their tyres. Sometimes at Thruxton, particularly on warm days, the front-wheel drive cars don't cross their tyres, but I think they probably will. They'll just do one lap and then cross the tyres because they don't want to spend too long not setting lap times. You heard Turkin to say he can get 3 runs in. That's 3 runs on 4 brand new tyres. For front-wheel drive cars, they can't do that if they spend too long crossing tyres.
Right, front-wheel drive, what about their chances? What about Toyota? Well, let's find out, because Louise is with Rory Butcher.
I am indeed. And Rory, a man on a mission last time out. Great race 3 for you at Snetterton, but obviously it's a whole different ball game here at Thruxton, isn't it? How have you been going so far?
Yeah, it is. It's a very unique circuit, Louise. But you know what, we've been okay. We've P5 in FP1, and Ricky was P6, I think, in FP2. So well, we're hopeful of having a strong quali. It's going to be tough as always, and we're probably going to have to pull a lap out of the bag on one of the hardest circuits in the world.
How tricky is that? Do you need a perfect lap to get the perfect time? It's a daft question, but do you know what I mean? How close to perfect do you have to be to get a decent lap time out here?
Yeah, you just have to have it on the edge, out the back, and you know what, you just got to build yourself up to that. And anything short, you're gonna lose a lot of lap time. Anything more, you'll be on the grass.
So how do you build yourself up psychologically for that?
Yeah, you just visualise what you need to do and take a deep breath when it comes to it.
Cool. Well, I'll let you do a bit more visualising and have a good run. See you later.
Speedworks MD John Gilbert in the foreground there, giving the thumbs up to George Gamble. One of the topics that became, perhaps unsurprisingly, a little bit lively at the drivers' briefing this morning was track limits, which, as ever, are going to have to be policed at the key parts of the circuit. But of course, here, the nature of the circuit means if you are going to run wide, then you're a brave man and you're almost penalising yourself anyway.
Yeah, I mean, there's only actually one point they're really monitoring, which is the exit of Club, which just happens to be the fastest corner on the, sorry, of Church, which happens to be the fastest corner on the track at the fastest country. There's a very narrow window of painted curb on the exit of that corner, and that's the limit of their track use. I understand it's going to be increased actually for racing tomorrow, where obviously driving is a bit more unpredictable. But for today, they've got to stick to that. At the club chicane, the final chicane, the track limit is simply a pile of tyres. So
your favourite things.
Fairly self-inflicting if you damage it. There they are, so they don't need to do it there. And at the complex, well, they simply aren't in track limit regulations because nobody's watching. So do what you like. Yeah.
Now there is Tom Mills' battered Mini going to the paddock, and one hopes that car will be able to be made good for tomorrow. Hopefully members of the Mini 7 Racing Club might be able to help join in and fix that. There are 2 minutes to go before the pit lane opens, 2 minutes, and then we'll be in business for 30 minutes of qualifying for round 10 of the championship, the 4th event, but the 10th round will be race 1 of the day tomorrow. And you can see just how busy, how cramped the pit lane is when everybody ventures out there.
Yeah, just to pick up on what Rory's saying, he said, you know, they talk about the cars being on the edge, particularly the front-wheel drive cars. So what they're saying is that if you make the car safe to drive, in other words, you introduce a lot more grip at the rear so the car is secure and planted, you get too much understeer and it's not quick. So they basically reduce the rear grip as much as they can still live with round the fastest part of the track. If they can live with it going round Goodwood and Church with the car a little bit loose at the back, that will be the fastest way to do the time. But it does mean they are right on the edge, as Rory said.
Now, Josh Cook, by dint of not being in the top 7 in the championship, therefore has the full 15 seconds a lap of the hybrid deployment and at the lesser speed of 115 kilometres an hour. So not only does he go well here, not only is he proved to be quick in free practice, but he's got more of that hybrid available. So it's looking good for him.
It is looking very good for him, and Rowbottom as well, because we know how good that car is, and he's got, I think, 11 seconds of hybrid. So, you know, he's looking good as well.
And has been a pole position driver here in the past. So it is 1 second a lap for Ash Sutton, 3 seconds a lap for Tom Ingram, 5 for Colin Turkington, 7 for Jake Hill and for Dan Camish. Then you have, because they are tied on points, then you've got 11 seconds for Dan Rowbottom, 13 seconds for Adam Morgan, and everybody else gets 15. And as I say, Josh Cook is in that everybody else bracket. The green flag is shown, and that means that Mikey Doble heads them out then in the car store with Powermax Racing, Vauxhall Astra, with Aaron Taylor-Smith, Andrew Watson behind. Then the Napa Fleet venture out. Dan Camish ahead of Ash Sutton, Dan Rowbottom, then Sam Osborne, and the others wait and wait and wait. They go out team by team by team. Always looks really impressive on the outlap of any session, doesn't it, when the cars are released like this?
Yeah, it's a nice thing to see, nice sight to see. And there, it doesn't get any better than Thruxton in the sunshine, does it?
So green flag to everybody, and there the drivers that have to come from the assembly area wait and are then on instruction allowed to join the back of the queue. So Jade Edwards will be one of them, Dan Lloyd, Nicholas Hamilton is there as well. But the road is going to get busy, certainly for an installation lap, and then we'll see what people decide to do about any tide crossing in the front-wheel drive contingent.
Yeah, the thinking is if you do 1 lap, cross your tyres on a front-wheel drive car, then you do your timed run, and then do the same again, you might have time just to put a front axle on at the end. We've seen it before at the end of qualifying where a driver just puts 2 front tyres on, because that's the time he's got left. And he really has to hang on to it then, because he has an excess of front grip over the rear.
Well, we know this is going to be lively. The last two qualifying sessions, of course, Donington escaped, but Brands Hatch and Snetterton we both had red flags at. So 3 red flags at Brands, 2 at Snetterton. Fingers crossed we get through this without significant drama as the drivers come up Woodham Hill towards the club chicane, weaving around. Dan Camish there to try to generate a bit more warmth in the rubber to get the pressures up as well. But we'll see in a moment whether he bails for the pit lane or he goes on to a flying lap. What he has got, of course, at the moment is pretty much clear track space as he comes out of the chicane. And if he peels to the right, which he does, like the Astras, then you know he's coming in.
Yeah, the thing is, because this is a predominantly fast clockwise circuit, there's not much opportunity to warm up that right rear tyre if you leave it on the same axle. And the right rear is super important when you get to the fast left-hander at Allard. The BMW's the only rear-wheel drive cars, of course, now in the field, no such worries at all.
Right, so we're on board with Dean Jelly heading to the complex. Campbell, Cobb, Seagrave, the right-left-right sequence of corners. And inevitably, it will be the BMWs that start to post early times, but they become of less import once the front-wheel drive machines get into their stride, and then the order will really start to take shape.
And this next corner, Noble, the left-hander, that's the one where the front-wheel drive cars are leaning on that right rear.
And it's where we've had some dramas in the past in racing. It's always a busy lap, of course, Thruxton, and with 27 drivers, it's going to be a very frantic session too. Right, so front-wheel drive machinery exiting the pit lane. That means the track is going to get busier, and inevitably, therefore, these rear-wheel drive cars on a moderately clear circuit at the moment are going to find themselves on a much busier road come the end of their next lap. Toyotas, Hondas, Hyundais, all ready to go back out once the tie cross is done. Rory Butcher you're looking at in the middle. Will Powell's car about to be dragged backwards, ready to be released. Tom Chilton and Ronan Pearson also about to go. Right, there is Jake Hill. He had a big slide at Church in the second session. It was a good save, but we know that Captain Car Control should go well around here as Jake flings it out of Allard then up towards the complex onto his first flying lap. He's done the target, a 1:22.1, but we want a 1:15 because that's where we were heading for in the free practice sessions earlier on.
Yeah, and here's the first of the problems, that all of the cars that have crossed tyres are coming out now, just building up slowly. Well, and you can see the hybrid light flashing in the left rear window just as the BMWs are starting their fast lap. So I always think they should just wait a lap or two whilst the front... Oh, look at that, sliding right to the edge. Jake Hill on the limit. He's been the quickest of the BMW drivers so far, and this is exactly why we love bringing you qualifying live, because you see these cars at their absolute fastest over the whole weekend. Here we go down to Church. Let's see. He may have slowed down because of... Yeah, he slowed down because of traffic, I think.
Yes, he's backed out of it, hasn't he? And behind, we've also got Stephen Jelly going quickly. So, as ever, the first few minutes are all about the BMWs, and then the order starts to take shape. But I haven't... Well, OK, he has backed out, so he will be going slower. Stephen Jelly is pressing on. I was going to say I hadn't seen the traffic, but because he's dropped back so much now, it may be less of a factor. This is Jelly's view. He comes out of the chicane. And so the BMW goes through, but there aren't that many cars up the road as an immediate problem.
No, and interestingly, Jake switched his lights off as if he wasn't going to prepare for another lap.
Yeah.
He has carried on another lap, but with his lights switched off. So I'm not sure what he was unhappy with on that lap. As you said, he was going all right for the first half.
So he's got 7 seconds of hybrid use per lap, as there is Stephen Jelly then pressing on. So he's now done a 1:17 as your first sort of target, but as I say, it's the 15th that we need to be looking for. Last year, a 1:15.3 was pole position in May for Josh Cook, and in the 2nd August meeting for Dan Camish, whose pole lap was actually 7 thousandths quicker than the pole lap of Cook in May. So they were pretty evenly matched, even at different points of the year. Aaron Taylor-Smith then, 2 personal bests up towards the line. This should put him the best of the front-wheel drive cars now that they are starting to set times. Through he goes, and Andrew Watson has done a 16.9. This is a big slide from the Ford coming out of Allard.
Yeah, I couldn't see which number that was, so I'm not sure which one it was, but you saw the twitching for the rear, so the rears were not completely in. On board with Ingram, getting a very nice tow. Is he going to be let past? No, he's not.
Right, Ash Sutton's done 2 personal bests. That was Ingram behind Osborne. That's Rowbottom coming into the chicane. Aaron Taylor-Smith is the fastest, by the way, and it's not anymore. Ash Sutton does a 15.8, so Ash Sutton goes to the top, a 1:15.848. That gets us towards this morning's times, and that was done with personal bests becoming absolute bests across every sector. 3 purples.
Yeah, but I wouldn't be surprised to see the qualifying record of 15.3 beaten today. And they generally, as we heard from Bobby Thompson in that pre-race interview, it's really only the first lap where the tyres are at their best. But Sutton's backed off from that, which is indicative of that very point.
This is Dan Rowbottom's view then, as he blasts his way past his teammate, hustles it on through Noble, skims the grass there as he sets it up for Goodwood and then Village on to Church. You can see the car looking a little bit nervous as he has to hang on to it. Speed building around this fast back part of the circuit from Village. Approaching Church now, another slower car on the inside that gets out of the way. He moves across, rattles the curb on the inside. Almost cuts the toenails of the marshals at that post on the right-hand side, and now not quite benefiting from the toe, heads up Woodham Hill. This lap is personal bests, but not purples. Rowbottom started the lap 7th, brakes as late as he dares for the chicane. Let's just get him across the line and see where he slots in. Then, a little bit ragged maybe through the chicane, just ever so slightly deep into the first part. Drops to 8th in the times, up towards the beam, drops to 9th in the times, goes through. And in the end, stayed 9th actually, didn't improve. He dropped time in that last sector.
Yeah, interesting. Sutton's fastest lap is actually quicker than his lap times in free practice. But the stunning thing about free practice was that Josh Cook was 4/10 quicker in the first practice and half a second quicker in the second practice. So we're yet to see a time from Cook that is going to be represented, but we know he had a lot of time in his hands during free practice.
He's currently to be found 7th, and we've lost lap times for Jade Edwards, Mikey Doble, and now Aidan Moffat. So the list is building in quick succession. We're starting to lose lap times. There'll be more.
And if we stay on board, you'll see the track limits on the exit. They can go on the painted. Oh, we
That's Rowbottom off.
Yeah, just missed it. Rowbottom off there.
So was that self-induced? We'll find out. This is Stephen Jelly's view up towards the chicane now.
He'll take across the big chunk of the inside curb there, which helps straight line the chicane on the way exit. The tyres, he's in the pits anyway. Drivers felt the tyres were perhaps, this is Rowbottom's moment up at the club. Going through the left-hander. He loses the rear, has to correct and goes straight across the inside at Noble. Fortunately, grass is nice and dry and grippy, but he rejoins just before or just after the marshal's post.
Heart rate back to normal. What was he saying to you earlier on about needing the loo?
Yeah.
Well, he will again after that. And of course, he didn't fight the car, did he? Once he knew it was wrong, he just let it go rather than risk putting it into a bigger drama.
Yeah, if you hold it or try and catch it, you can actually spear off on the left and have an even bigger accident on the left. Now we're on board with Cooking. What's he doing on this lap? It's not a personal best on this lap. On the first sector, it wasn't which comes just after the Campbell Cobb Seagrave sequence. The second sector is on the run down to Church, but he's not quicker on this lap.
Now that is Ricky Collard at his home circuit, the Hampshire driver, absolutely on the edge as he goes through Allard, looking for good sectors elsewhere. Josh Cook up to 6th in the times now. The long list of people losing laps for track limit offences is growing, by the way. We've now added George Gamble to it. We've added Jack Butel. We've added Rory Butcher as well. So Ricky Collard comes out of the complex, speed building. He's 14th in the times. He's got the road to himself. So on the one hand, no traffic, but equally there's no tow, which might just help at certain parts. Let's see. He goes out of Noble now.
Yeah, he was very quick through Allard, that first corner. He's absolutely flat. These guys in qualifying don't even lift, let alone have a little settle on the brakes. He was extremely quick, just kicking up the dust on the exit. Now he's coming down to Church where the track limits is in operation. A little dab on the brakes. You saw the brake lights flash. That just helps to turn the car in. Looked a bit loose on the exit, but we didn't see how close he was to track limits.
So you've got judges of fact on either side of the road looking at that part of the lap as Ricky Collard comes now down into the chicane. Turns right, turns left, turns right up towards the line, but I think it's going to be for the pit lane, isn't it? Yes, it is. Yeah. So in comes the Toyota Gazoo Racing UK Corolla, and more people are in the pit lane. Some are going back out. You can see 2 more there, but the pit lane's been quite busy as we are at the end of the first third.
Yeah, interesting, because they're quite a long way away from what they did in free practice, despite now everybody having had at least one run at it. So whether the track's got a bit slower, a bit hotter, I don't know. But they're a little bit slower and a little bit off what I expected them to be on the first run.
Now, the one that's at the foot of the times at the moment is George Gamble. He's done one run and then had the time, effectively the good time, taken off him for track limit offences. So George Gamble is one that we need to keep an eye to on his next run to see what he can do. The order is Sutton, Ingram, Camish, Hill, Taylor Smith, Cook, Turkington, Thompson, Watson, Rowbottom as your top 10.
Yeah, interesting mix. Top BMW, Hill in 4th. Next is Turkington in 7th.
Jade Edwards on screen, 22nd. She lost the lap time right at the very start of the session. But the Team Hard run Cupra then is on an outlap, in fact, so is the next one that might be worth watching.
Or it might be her warming lap. I'm not sure whether she's been in and crossed her tyres or not. Back to Turkington. He's not pushing either at the moment. They're all just building their tyres up for this second run, aren't they, at the moment? So we've got this little lull in green and purple sectors, but it won't be long before those colours are flashing up again on our timing screen, I'm sure.
Yeah, well, one improvement has come from Nick Halstead. He's penultimate, racing a touring car here for the first time. He won't have done many laps around here, possibly in his Ginetta days, but certainly not in GT racing, because that has been a long, long time since British GT came to Thruxton. But Nick Halstead did a 19.8 last time around.
Camish, I thought, was on a lap because he was using the curbs, and indeed it was. The first sector was a personal best, a 25.9. This is a quick lap from Camish.
Dan Rowbottom's forward up to the complex. This is Camish at the back part of the circuit. He needs another green or a purple at the end of this next sector, heading then towards Church, and it is another green, so it's going to be an improvement, but to where? He's 6/10 off pole at the moment.
He was really hanging on to it on the exit of Church. You can see him trying to tighten the line and the car sliding a bit. Really hard to hang on to a 1,350 kilo car and not just place it within inches on the exit of that corner. Neatly through the chicane, now the run up to the line. What's this lap going to deliver?
The answer is that he goes second at 1:16.250. He's still 4/10 down on Sutton. Camish, remember, with 7 seconds per lap of the extra hybrid deployment, but he's still going to find 4/10 of a second. So Sutton, even with only 1 second a lap, is still the man at the top of the time. So Josh Cook is only 6th.
Yeah, so the track has definitely changed its complexion, hasn't it? And maybe the additional heat we've got in the day now has just upset the car balance enough and the grip on the circuit. I wouldn't be surprised if we're talking to the drivers afterwards, they all say a similar story and that they didn't have the same balance they had in free practice.
Dan Rowbottom has gone 4th, so he's the next significant improver. He was 10th, he's up to 4th in the times now. And the current top 7 all within a second of each other, except Rowbottom's lap time is disallowed, and so he falls out of 4th, and he's back down to 10th.
And so the story of track limits and results of qualifying and races continues.
And we're not done yet either, everybody, because we're only just nudging halfway. At least with lap times being disallowed, you know what's happening during the session. It's not like a result being changed hours later. Right, now Collard is up to 4th, and he did personal, absolute best. So Ricky Collard, this is his kind of circuit, isn't it, though, really? You've got to be brave, and we know that Ricky doesn't lack commitment. He's up to 4th in the times then, and there's potentially more to come from him yet.
Yeah, well, despite this being home circuit for the Collard family, it was never the kindest of circuits to Father Rob, was it? But Ricky would love to get a good result here.
Yes, still after his maiden win, really, or one that he can keep after it went begging at Brands Hatch. So there he is, but he's heading now potentially towards a little bit of traffic just up the road, isn't he? So it's still Sutton the fastest by 4/10. We're into part 2, if you like, the second half of the session. Dan Rowbottom is up to 5th. If that lap stands, George Gamble's had another lap removed, so he's still at the bottom of the time. So George Gamble twice being caught out by the dreaded track limits.
He's just going to have to go a bit steadier through Church, isn't he, George Gamble, to get a lap time on the board, because he's using up valuable sets of tyres now for no time on the board at all.
Andrew Watson has gone second in the Astra, 1:16.034. Andrew Watson out of nowhere is with an absolute best in the last sector, up to second in the times. Now the Vauxhalls have always gone well around here, and they're a brilliant effort.
That is absolutely fantastic, and it's a strange thing because it's the oldest chassis out on the grid. And he's one of the newest drivers in the championship, a rookie this year. But boy, what an impression he's made right from the word go. For him to nail that car wherever he qualifies now, but somewhere near the front, is a real feather in his cap, isn't it?
It is indeed. Ricky Collard has lost a lap time, but it doesn't affect where he is in terms of the times, if you like. It's only other people affecting him, like Bobby Thompson, who's just gone fourth, because the lap that Ricky Collard has lost was not as good as his previous one, which he's able to keep. Aaron Taylor-Smith up to fifth, so Vauxhall's second, fifth, and where is Mikey Doble in all of this? 15th, now 16th.
On board with Josh Cook, yet to see what he's really capable of delivering. He's down in 13th place at the moment.
Traffic isn't going to help, although Andrew Watson does get out of the way into the pit lane. Here comes Cook up towards the timing line then. It was green, and as he breaks the beam, he's gone fastest of all, has he? Because he goes across the timing line to do a 1:15.735. There was a bit of hesitation before it was revealed, but Josh Cook is the fastest by a tenth of a second, 1:15.735.
Well, we were waiting for that lap time to be delivered, and he didn't let us down. He's backed off now on this lap. He's seen his lap time, he's heard where he is, and he's backed off now. With 12 minutes remaining, he's got a choice of going for another set of tyres or a pair on the front, depending on how he feels the balances. If the car's very understeery with these changing track conditions, he might just elect to put a pair of fronts on. There on the weighing scales is Andrew Watson, just getting his car checked for eligibility.
Colin Turkington is up to fifth now. Tom Ingram is up to second, and that means that the margin between the top two is just 33 thousandths of a second. Cook to Ingram, 33 thousandths. Hill's up to fifth.
Really close at the front.
This is Tom Ingram's view, and now with less than 12 minutes to go, we have got a qualifying session. It's all come alive now.
And Ingram is still attacking very hard on this lap. Did you see how much Kirby used in the middle of that Campbell Cobb Seagrave section, just to straight line the exit, give him a bit more? We're going to stay with him, I hope, round this lap, because this is such a touchy-feely. I wish we could see his hands on the wheel, because he will be working so hard here. Now he bisects the middle of the track as we come down to Church.
But he's down in sectors 1 and 2, isn't he? So it's not quite as quick. It might be committed. Look how much curb on the inside. Nearly says hello to the marshals. Wide on the outside.
That looked like he was over the track limits on the exit. So, but if he loses this lap and is not faster, it won't affect him. In qualifying, you lose the lap that you're on if you exceed track limits, not your fastest lap of the session, unless they happen to coincide. Absolutely. And he's backed off. He'll be going in the pits now.
Yes, you lose the lap on which you have gone over the limit. Now, George Gamble, third offence. Rory Butcher, second offence for track limits. So the Toyotas, perhaps they're just wide cars, they're getting done repeatedly. Ricky Collard had also been in stride for track limits, but he is the best of them, although he's dropped to 10th now. Others going quicker. Another one for Rowbottom. Rowbottom has lost another lap as well. And he's 12th fastest. That's not where he wanted to be as you look at Tom Chilton coming into the complex. And Chilton is 18th. Mikey Doble is the next one to lose the lap time, by the way.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to know what the grid would have been if we hadn't had all these lap times disallowed, wouldn't it? How different would it actually be? Well, one person who certainly probably would have improved is George Gamble, because he's still 21st.
Yeah. Adam Morgan is the latest victim of the judges of fact for identifying that he has been going a little bit too wide. And we're only talking millimetres, really, at Church. Again, ultra-fast part of the circuit. The car's absolutely on the edge, and a fraction wide and you lose your lap time. It seems unfair in a way.
You see how hard they're bouncing around there.
Yeah.
You know, it's a really hard car to hold on to, and there's no margin for error there. As I say, the painted curve will be increased for tomorrow's racing, but really difficult when you turn into that corner to know quite where you're going to end up.
And do you actually gain anything by going those extra centimetres wide?
not centimetres, no. If you went 3 feet wide, you'd gain something, but nobody's trying to do that. They are trying to stay within the lines.
But 3 feet puts you on the grass anyway, so you've got to be brave and self-penalise. Ash Sutton then is the man with 2 absolute bests on this lap. This should put him, with only that 1 second of hybrid power a lap, back onto pole position. He's 3rd at the moment. There's nobody around him, so the championship leader. Don't forget, there's a 0.4 pole at stake as well. Comes into the chicane. It's looking good, isn't it? Nobody to get in the way. He's up the curb. In, through, and out of the chicane now. Up to the timing line. A 15.7 to beat, and he should be able to do it as he breaks the beam. Let's see, it's a 15.489. Ash Sutton goes on to pole position, 1:15.489.
Yeah, not by a little bit, by 2.5 tenths. And remember, this is the man with the least amount of hybrid, just 1 second. And although I said that at this track hybrid doesn't make much difference, by means of a handicap for championship position, it clearly doesn't work, does it?
No.
If he had 75 kilos on, as in the old days, he almost certainly wouldn't be able to do that.
Yeah, you'd know about it then, wouldn't you, for sure. Dan Camish up to 5th in the times. But in this new era of touring car racing with the hybrid, it is Ash Sutton who is able on pace and on merit to deliver. Mikey Doble's just lost another lap. That is his 3rd lap time taken off him. Sutton, Cook, Ingram, Watson, Camish, Hill, Turkington, Thompson, Taylor Smith, Collard. That is the top 10.
Camish passing his teammate. He's got his lights on, he's on his flying lap. On terms of the sector, he wasn't quicker in the first sector. Despite setting his fastest lap on the last lap round, he wasn't quicker on this one, so maybe he's had the best of the tyres.
Now, the pit lane is very busy. There's a big number of cars in the pit lane. Are we expecting them to go back out, or is that their session done because they've had 2 sets of tyres used?
No, they can still got time to go out, but for front-wheel drive cars, you've really only got time just to put a pair of fronts on and leave the warm rears on the back.
Okay, and therefore Jade Edwards loses the lap. Dan Camish clips the tyre stack. Has he got away without damage? If he does get away from that, he'll have done very well for himself.
Well, remember, it was at Snetterton in qualifying that he made that mistake going through the Hamilton left-hander that saw him back of the grid for race 1. That was nearly another damaging moment. One thing he has done, though, is he's opened up that chicane for people to take more liberties.
Bounces over the curb.
Time to abandon this lap, I think.
Yeah, maybe he's just tweaked the geometry after that touch with the tyres. That lap wasn't an improvement. This would have been the one potentially on which he went quicker. It was a little bit loose into the chicane, wasn't it?
Yeah, he gets a little bit of a bounce off the curb coming off. He turns in, mistimes it. But look how far he's pushed those tyres back. As soon as the other drivers see that on their out lap, they will take maximum advantage of it, because there's no judge of fact on track limits there. It's done purely by the tyres being there. So unless they stop the session, move the tyres back, which they're not going to with 6 minutes to go, there's another 1/10 or 2 of second there, because people can gain more time coming through and out of the chicane. So I wouldn't be surprised to see times improve.
And potentially some of the teams will be on the radio to say to drivers, you can push a bit more at the chicane, because they will have seen what we've just been watching. Dan Camish then with a little bit of damage potentially. Andrew Watson has done another personal best within the first sector. Josh Cook tonking up towards the chicane here, but he's on an out lap, so it's the next one for Cookie that we need to keep an eye on. And we've only got 5 3/4 minutes counting of the session still to go. Right, so this is Cook into the chicane, and he blasts up towards the timing line. Dan Lloyd here, 17th, and he was doing personal best and personal best. Slight lock-up coming into the chicane. Pump task, but yes, there you can graphically see how much wider the chicane has come. Up towards the timing line. Where does this put him? 17th at the start of it, 8th at the end. That is some benefit to Dan Lloyd, a 1:16.3.
Yeah, and not surprisingly, he got his fastest sector in the last sector.
Yeah, personal bests all the way through the lap. Big spin is that. Nick Halstead it is, yeah. And he's out of the way, but now he's got to try and wait for a gap in the traffic. Trouble is, that's a yellow flag zone, so you should be reducing your speed.
Yeah, this is not good for everyone who's on a fast lap right now. What does he do? He loses it actually going in. That's an unusual spin, that is. Whether he had cold rears on, I don't know, but that's an unusual spin.
Mikey Doble is up to 4th in the car store Power Max Racing Astra. 4th for Mikey Doble. Andrew Watson's just had a lap taken off him. This is Dan Rowbottom, who is 13th at the moment. So highs and lows for Power Max Racing, and Mikey Doble then up to 4th. Colin Turkington is up to 5th.
But still with Andrew Watson in 6th, we've got 2 Power Max cars in 4th and 6th at the moment.
And Aaron Taylor-Smith, more experienced of the 3, is 11th in the times. Right, 4 minutes to go. George Gamble, another lap time disallowed. I've lost count, I think that's 4. Up to 5th goes Jake Hill. We barely mentioned Jake all session, but he's there now into the top 5 with just under 4 minutes to go.
So I'm assuming that the Nick Halstead car is moved. So these times coming in now with, as you say, just under 4 minutes to go. And Jake Hill's backed off, look, now on this lap.
So he's done his good lap. Then backs out of it. Sutton, Cook, Ingram, up to 9th has gone Rory Butcher, so that's encouraging for the Scottish driver. Up into the top 10, then 9th fastest. This is Camish, who is currently 9th. Did I tell you that Dan Robotham had gone 8th? Well, if I didn't, he has. And up to 11th has gone Ricky Collard. What about Camo as he heads up toward the line? 9th he was, and he's on to a flying lap now because that was an out lap, so it's this next lap we need to be looking for Camish. Rowbottom's lap has been disallowed, so he falls now back to 14th.
I'll have a count up at the end of this lap. That Ford really bouncy over the curbs. It tends to upset Camish a little bit more than it does Ash Sutton. He seems able to live with it a little bit better, but it certainly works well round the rest of the circuit. Out of that first sector, and Camish still not a personal best. It's a 26.0, but that's not a personal best. We've seen 25.9s frequently in that first sector. He comes down to the next sector as we come down towards Church to see if it's an improvement, and again, it's not a personal best.
But Ash Sutton's done an absolute best within the first sector. George Gamble and then Sam Osborne have just had laps taken off them. Red flag is shown, the session is stopped with 2.5 minutes to go, and we've now had 24 track limit penalties. In fact, make that 25 now, with the most recent one for 77 Sam Osborne, and another one for Josh Cook.
Well, although the session's been stopped with 2 minutes 28, the Clark, the Corsi and Watson can put 5 minutes back on the clock. So there is time to do another quick lap.
Do we think this is for a car off, or do we think this is for that tyre stack? Because people now are taking more liberties at the chicane, enough's enough, because it's not a level playing field now from what we had before.
But some people have already done their fastest times with that tyre stack moved, so is that fair? Yeah. But you might well be right, David. You might well be right. They're going to move it back. But that's, you know, a bit like the track limits thing. We're making a lottery out of the bit of track you can race on and qualify on.
And I'm looking around to see if I can find a car that is not moving in a sector, and I'm struggling at the moment.
I mean, that was unfortunate for Ash Sutton just jumping in, because he'd set the fastest first sector, and his tyres may not be in the best shape now to do another lap.
No. The clock has been reset with 5 minutes, as you were suggesting. It could be, because there is that provision in the regulations. It's at the clerk of the course's discretion, but Ian Watson has given them the 5 minutes. But as I say, looking at this, pretty much everybody we can account for in the pit lane, and therefore my only thought as to why the session is stopped has to be that tyre stack.
And the other problem is that with 5 minutes back on the board, the front-wheel drive cars who'd got their tyres optimised in terms of temperature, it's very difficult now to go, because if they go out as the tyres are now, the rears will have got colder. Yeah. They haven't really got time, well, they haven't got time to do one lap cross and another lap. They could just do it, but it'd be very tight. Depends on how they leave the pit lane. So it's really handicapped those that were in the zone just at that point. If someone was about to do a lap, it's probably not such a problem. Here's Camish coming into the chicane.
This was him clipping the tyres, yeah.
Well, I mean, they've knocked them a good 1.5 foot further in, haven't they? Which widens the line.
But that was quite a long time ago.
Yeah.
You know, if it wasn't a problem for those 3, 4, 5 minutes, why is it a problem now? Yeah. Anyway, the tyre stack is going to be put back into place. That is the reason for the red flag. And there it is. Realigning track furniture is the euphemism proffered by Race Control. The track furniture has been realigned.
But you make a very good point. Why wasn't it done straight away? You know, they would have seen it like we did. Why not throw the red flag straight away? Why allow 5 more minutes or whatever it was for people to do faster lap times and then change it?
I can't answer that.
No.
Somebody can, but it ain't me. Yeah. But I take your point. I mean, yes, we are agreed.
It's a question we'll be asking, isn't it, David?
It is. Yeah. It is. Stay tuned. An answer will come, no doubt, at some stage. Right, 5 minutes are on the board. This is going to be really frantic. Tim is counting track limits at the moment. I've lost count at 24, but we might have even more than that now. So it is Sutton, Ingram, Cook, Doble, Hill, Turkington, Watson, Taylor-Smith, Camish, Butcher as the top 10.
26, David. Right. 26 qualifying laps disallowed
at one part of the circuit
for one corner. And it's not, and it will be because of inches and millimeters, not anything else.
Yeah, because if you go so wide, you're on the grass anyway.
Yet the cars can drive half the car across the curve at the complex because it's not a corner that's monitored. Although the rule says it should be at all corners. So tell me why that makes sense.
Again, can I get back to you on that?
Yes.
We've got a green flag, so let's focus for the moment on who can go quicker and to what level. Ash Sutton is 2/10 quicker than anybody else, but we'd anticipate him to go back out just in case he has to respond. He can't just sit on his laurels, can he?
No, they've got to respond. They will go, and if he feels there's a lap in it, he will absolutely go. See, the cars aren't even out of the pit lane yet, and we are down to less than 4.5 minutes.
Yeah.
That's how quickly the time goes. So there isn't time to cross the tyres, I don't think, and get back round to start a lap. It'll be very close.
In fairness to Ian Watson, it's better to give them the 5 minutes than abandon the session with 2.5 to go. At least he's giving people an opportunity, I guess.
Yeah, he is, but yeah, and that's why it was done.
Yeah.
And we have seen faster times in the last session. So, well, Camish isn't going.
No, I was going to say, there's not too
either
much.
That, or he's waiting for a pair of fronts.
Yeah.
He's still got the rears on, so maybe he's waiting for a pair of new fronts.
There's not much urgency, and Dan Lloyd's crash helmet's on the car, so he's not going out.
They're just going on the car now.
Right. But we know that Dan Lloyd isn't going out. 3.5 minutes. It's going to be a banzai effort from Dan Cam, isn't it, once he gets the tyres on. Right, so people are on an out lap. It is the next one we need to be looking for greens and purples.
Yeah, hang on to your hats, because there'll be a lot of cars in a fairly unbalanced state as they start their fast lap.
Well, that's Jack Butel, who qualified well at Brands Hatch, if you recall, goes over the timing line then onto a flying lap, and as he did so, he did a personal best speed over the timing line, so he's committed. A cloud has just hovered over the circuit, so it's not quite as hot and sunny as it was earlier on. Let's see if that makes any odds as you look at Jade Edwards going past the pits now.
Camish has just left the pit lane with 3 minutes to get round before the flag, so he'll have comfortably be able to do that and start a lap.
Right, it's going to get very, very busy indeed.
Sutton just came past there with his lights fully on, so he's trying to do another lap. We'll get a first split on Sutton as he exits the complex. The BMWs are still warming their tyres up, but next lap will be probably their last, depending on when they cross the line. It takes 1 minute 15 seconds to do a lap. Sutton across the first split, and it's a 25.8, so that's a quick time, but not quite as quick as he did before. But I think his other time was a 25.8 something, so it's very close.
Yeah, he's about 300ths down, so it is a tiny, tiny deficit. Right, Turkington is going to let Jelly Morgan go, and we are looking for improvements in sectors. The one from Dexter Patterson, but he's a long way down the order. Right, so here are the Vauxhalls into the chicane. And the clock has got just under 2 minutes to go. If you were at the front of the queue, you've got a chance of an extra lap. That is Dexter Patterson, who was looking good in the middle sector. That is Jade Edwards coming out of the chicane now. Now, in terms of speed, we've got Tom Ingram with an absolute best speed in sector 1 and a personal best in the second sector. In other words, it's coming. Lots of second sector times are improvements now. This is the lap, although having said that, we've just lost a lap time for Aaron Taylor-Smith.
Yeah, and Sutton didn't go quicker on that lap. He did a 15.7 opposed to a 15.5 rounded up best time.
Yeah. Right, but as I say, middle sectors were improving last time around, so now you can anticipate a push lap from people. Sutton is the fastest by 1/5 of a second. That is Ada Moffat coming out of the chicane. That is Tom Ingram. Roland Pearson has just lost a lap for track limit offences. We've got Patterson up to 20th and Will Powell up to 24th. So that's our 28th, now 29th track limit offence. The 29th being Ricky Collard, who's just lost his last lap time. So still it goes on. Right, Camish you're looking at. Cook's lost a lap now.
Yeah, so on this lap, following Camish round, has he done anything better? He has done a personal best in sector 1, but not in sector 2.
right, and others not improving, and the flag is imminent. Camish will squeeze one more lap out of it. Josh Cook, I told you, had lost a lap, but now his teammate Aidan Moffat has done likewise. Here is Camish then about to start a last lap, last roll of the dice for him, and he will start that lap from 9th as he comes up now, goes through. Jade Edwards went 25th last lap over the timing line, and Will Powell has lost a lap time aboard, number 70. Right.
Hamish did not improve. That was a 16.3. 16.1 is his best.
Ronan Pearson up to 19th if the lap stands. Checkered flag is out, and we'll see in a moment who the first driver is that's going to take it then. The flag out to end the session, and it is Aidan Moffat who is the first driver across the line. The smoke and tyres there. Whoops, off the road goes Dexter Patterson. And we think there's oil down on the circuit,
yes.
And that's catching people out, yes, because there are more and more cars going at Noble all over the grass. And next one disappears. It's one of the BFWs, so we had oil at Snetterton, we've got oil at Thruxton, and you do not want oil at that part of the circuit, do you? No,
that left-hander Noble, very, very fast and tricky, but the radios will have been hot now. Hopefully people have told everyone.
Right.
Taylor Smith's dropping oil as early as going round turn 1, wasn't he? And that's several more corners later that he actually has his big off. So that will be your result. Championship leader, Ash Sutton, the man with the least amount of hybrid use, sticks it on pole, not by a little bit, but by 0.2 of a second. The man's unstoppable.
That was the oil down from Aaron Taylor-Smith. Dexter Patterson taking to the dirt and bailing out of that lap, and then others behind him arriving on a very slippery circuit and skating onto the grass. But Ash Sutton has done it then. Pole position goes the way of Ash. That's a 9th and his 2nd of the season then. Back-to-back poles, of course, at Snetterton last time. And it doesn't matter what you do to him in terms of the hybrid. Outstanding driver in a very, very well-engineered car. Well, it's always going to be good.
Yeah, and he said this car is going to fly at Thruxton. He knew it was good because he knew how good the chassis was. He knew how well it suited him, and he was full of confidence. Now, there's always a risk now that he struggles with this ride height thing. It's a worry for all the Napa racing cars. Let's just watch. Looks good, looks good, looks good. Phew. Okay, panic over on that one. I can tell you there have been some Tony Carosa or some of the Napa racing mechanics up there just watching that, but that roller flew under. So as long as the weight's okay, this will be your result.
Ash Sutton takes his 2nd pole of the season ahead of Tom Ingram, with the king of Thruxton, Josh Cook, only 3rd. Mikey Doble 4th ahead of Jake Hill, then Colin Turkington. Andrew Watson 7th ahead of Aaron Taylor-Smith. Dan Camish 9th and Rory Butcher in 10th. Great session for all the Vauxhall Astros, you've got to say. 11th, Ricky Collard ahead of Dan Lloyd and Bobby Thompson. Dan Rowbottom 14th ahead of Adam Morgan and then Stephen Jelly. Aidan Moffat 17th from Tom Chilton. Ronan Pearson next and Sam Osborne in 20th. 21st, Dexter Patterson ahead of George Gamble and Jack Butel. 24th was Will Powell. It was Nicholas Hamilton, Jade Edwards, and then the spinning Nick Halstead to round out the order. So as Ash Sutton drives down the pit lane, other team members or other teams think, oh no, what do we do now to stop him? Because with only a 2nd a lap of hybrid, he's done it again. You can see there that the signage on the car saying it's under Parc Ferme. So it's pole for Ash Sutton. Frustration, though, for Josh Cook, Louise, because he's only 3rd.
Well, only 3rd. I don't think he's going to be too disappointed with that, although I'm now looking at your face, and maybe you are.
Yeah. I don't know if there was fluid down or something from the minis, but it was just... Obviously, we have our cars set up in a particular way that's on edge, and there was just no grip at all. And it wasn't even a case of, are we quick? It was, I either stayed on the track or went off. So it wasn't really that was the worst session I've had here in a long, long time. So not happy about it. We know the car's good in the race, but it's not really the point. It's, not sure what went on there, but that was not good. But either way, we're P3. Somewhere for us to fight tomorrow, and I haven't got anything to lose, so we'll see what happens.
That sounds interesting to me. Let's see, I can see Tom Ingram is over here, so Tom is going to be starting on the front row. Happy with that session?
I think so. It was very tricky with wind picking up and stuff like that. But yeah, very pleased to be up on the front row with Ash. Yeah, good place to be. And I'll be honest, a little unexpected after where our pace has realistically felt out of the car. It's felt like we've been lacking something this weekend. So yeah, very good to be back up towards the sharper end of the grid, which is very good. Thank you, mate. So we've got a little bit of work to do, but I think fundamentally we've got quite a quick car, which is good. It's just refining it. Normal racing driver's excuse book, page 7, paragraph 6. I got traffic on my best lap, ironically by Ash, but I won't hold it against him for long. So it's all right.
Oh, okie dokie. And I think our pole sitter, yeah, he's over here. I'm going to do my usual dive in when Alan Hyde, who is our circuit commentator, is trying to have a good. Poor Alan. Thanks, Alan. So Ash, pole position again, and this continues the Napa success. You've had pole at every single race so far this season. The team has.
Yeah, it's just a phenomenal job. We can't shout loud enough to how well Napa Racing UK have done as an outfit over the winter. So, car's mega. Obviously, we had a great year last year here with the two attempts that we had here, and the car was strong then, and we've only made the car better. So, yeah, all day we've just been playing around, tweaking it, fine-tuning it, and getting myself in a good place, and yeah, just roll it all out for qualifying. I still believe there's something wrong with us to drive as fast as we do around here, but it's a good. When you got a car like that, it's mega.
No comment.
No, well, yeah, it's just awesome, Louise. The car's on rails, and I can't thank the team enough.
So are we looking at the threat of I say threat to them, great news for you, of another 2 race wins here come tomorrow?
Well, I know Tom's not going to make it easy, and obviously Josh has sat there as well. It's never easy, Louise. It's always tough, but yeah, we just got to dial a bit of a race set up into it. Maybe go back to where we were with the car when we first arrived, and as long as I can hang on and keep it all neat and tidy, then get off the line, then we should be in good shape. But it's never easy.
See you out there.
Cheers, Louise. Thank you.
Back to you guys.
Thanks, Louise. So a happy Ash Sutton. A not so happy Josh Cook. I think we were right in the prediction that he wasn't going to be overly chuffed with third, but Ash Sutton has done it again, and he will start tomorrow's first race from pole position. In the background there, all smiles, is Pete Osborne. Rather frustrated Dan Rowbottom with his effort, but Ash Sutton very, very pleased indeed with pole, and Dan Camish 9th. So you've got the Napa Fords peppered up and down the grid, but it's going to be fascinating to see what pans out when we actually go racing rather than looking at pure lap times. So it all starts then tomorrow at Thruxton with a great day of racing in prospect. The first touring car race is going to be at 11:45. We are going to be on air from 11:15. In order to bring you not only the touring car action, but all the build-up to that first race, the Formula 4 and Carrera Cup and Mini action, joined tomorrow as well by the visiting Mini 7 Racing Club, the Mini 7 and the Mini Amelia Championship races as well. They have one race today, one tomorrow. That'll be great entertainment. So there's a lot to look forward to tomorrow on ITV4 from 11:15. We'll see you in the morning for what promises to be another cracking day of racing in the Quick Fit British Touring Car Championship. For now, from Thruxton, though, from Louise Goodman, Tim Harvey and David Addison, goodbye.